So welcome again, everybody, to this session in the Faculty of Engineering at the University of Waterloo. Today, we're going to talk about the graduate studies, masters and PhDs in the Department of System Design Engineering. To do so, we have the full team. We have Anna. She is the Academic Service Coordinator for Master of Applied Science and PhD. If you are not familiar in what it is, the Master of Applied Science, you will know it soon. Also today, we have Chanel. She is the Academic Service Coordinator for the course-based masters, the MEng, Master of Engineering. We have Sarah Lindy. She is the Administrative Officer in System Design Engineering. And I am Maria Sandoval, Marketing and Recruitment Specialist in the Engineering Graduate Studies Office in the Faculty of Engineering.
Great. Thank you so much, Maria. So I'm just going to start by providing a little bit of an introduction this morning. And first of all, we'll talk about what we're going to learn. So we're going to look at programs, admission requirements, and deadlines to apply. We'll talk about what makes a good application, how to find a supervisor, the research areas that we offer in systems design engineering, as well as funding and awards, which I know is very important to many of you. So within the University of Waterloo, the Faculty of Engineering really stands out as a leader in working with industry and making industry connections. We have top labs, institutes, and research centers here on campus. We are a top ranking school in many ranking categories, and we have a number of clubs and associations that are really going to help enhance your student experience. One of the things that makes the University of Waterloo unique is that we have 100% of the ideas developed by those at Waterloo are owned by their creators. So that is to say that your ideas are your intellectual property. Our policy on intellectual property gives both faculty and students complete ownership over their ideas and their technology. That puts you in control of patents, licensing, commercialization, and even starting your own company. So why would you be interested in graduate studies in systems design engineering? Well, maybe you want to advance your engineering career. You want to create and support research projects. You want to design and strengthen and expand upon your technical, research, and practical skills. And maybe you want to attain a more specialized knowledge and tools to work on some of the aspects of your field of interest. Well, fortunately, we have two people here that are going to be a great resource to help you learn all of these things. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Anna, who's going to introduce you to some of the steps and information that we covered at the beginning here about how you're going to want to start your application for studying in systems design engineering.
Thank you, Sarah. The first step is to be able to determine what program you want to apply to if you're interested in systems design engineering. So we offer three overarching programs. As we mentioned, the Master of Engineering program is course-based, and then we have our Master of Applied Science program, which is research-based, and our Doctor of Philosophy program, PhD program, which is also research-based. The Master of Engineering program consists of 8 courses, and you might be interested in this type of program if you'd like to develop your leadership and project management skills, or if you might want to take more advanced courses to gain further specialized knowledge in your field. The MEng program offers 5 optional areas of specialization, or you can just keep it general, which gives you a little more flexibility in terms of the courses that you take. The MEng program typically takes about 3 to 4 terms of full-time enrollment, starting from an honors bachelor degree, which usually lasts from 1 to 1.5 years. And it is a self-funded degree, so you need to be prepared for that going in as well. The MASC program, on the other hand, has 4 courses as the requirement, and then you complete a research-based thesis. So that's where the research-based program comes into play. You might be interested in this if you want to develop and join a research group with a supervisor, if you want to move forward and continue pursuing a PhD or maybe a career in engineering research. And plenty of people go on from their Master of Applied Science to go into industry as well. So there are a lot of options you can do with that too. Typically, this program takes around 2 years to complete, and it's funded by a supervisor. And I'll go into some of those lower details shortly, just because they are shared with our Doctor of Philosophy program. So the PhD program is a little bit different. So it's assuming that you're coming from a master's program, and therefore you have 3 courses that you're obligated to take, and then a comprehensive exam, and then you again complete with a research-based thesis. You might be interested in a PhD, again, if you're interested in developing and joining a research group and having a supervisor. If you're interested in going to academia, you would likely want to pursue this option. And lots of people go on again from PhD into industry as well. This typically takes around 4 years to complete, and it is also funded by a supervisor. And as you see at the bottom there, we do have collaborative programs in nanotechnology and aeronautics as well. And those programs are interesting because they're offered jointly with other departments in the Faculty of Engineering and the Faculty of Science. So that offers students an opportunity to gain perspectives from sort of a diverse array of faculty members. And those programs may have different degree requirements to complete them, namely specific courses that they might require you to take as well. And then you'll see below that we have our biomedical engineering program coming soon. So for both the Master of Applied Science and PhD program, we're very excited that we'll be having a specific biomedical engineering program. So thus far, we have had biomedical engineering research done under the House of Systems Design Engineering. So we have a lot of students who are in that research area, and we have faculty where that's their area of focus. Hopefully in the near future, we will have our biomedical engineering program where you'll get a specific Master of Applied Science or PhD degree in biomedical engineering. So we're currently in the process, the approval and review process for that. So we expect it to be launching fairly soon. So there may be a few facts that you might not have known previously about graduate studies. One is that you can transfer from the MEng program to the MASC program if you find a faculty member that's willing to accept you into their research group after starting your program. So this can actually be a great way if you don't find a supervisor before joining the program, or if you're not quite sure what area you're interested in researching yet, to be able to get your feet on the ground. You can start taking courses, and you can be here physically and getting to know some of the supervisors face to face before potentially transitioning into a Master of Applied Science program if a supervisor accepts you. The next is that you can transfer from the Master of Applied Science program to the PhD program before the end of your 4th term of study in the Master of Applied Science program. So you don't necessarily need to complete your Master of Applied Science degree in order to proceed to a PhD program. If things are going really well, maybe you're really enjoying working with your supervisor, maybe you feel like your research has the potential to be a lot bigger than just your master's thesis, that's a great option for students to, instead of graduating from the Master of Applied Science, transition directly into the PhD and complete the PhD once they've started in the Master of Applied Science program instead. And finally, exceptional programs may be offered direct entry into the PhD program. So this is without a master's degree. And so this is called the PhD 3, that's the program code for it. I mentioned in the previous slide that most students join the PhD program having completed a master's. So if you are offered the option to do this, it would typically have different course requirements because you haven't completed that master's baseline. But for exceptional students who might have great undergrad research experience and potentially great grades going in, this is an option that sometimes can be available to you. So once you've determined what program you're interested in, you will obviously need to know how to apply. So here are the admission requirements as an overview for the MEng, MASC, and PhD programs. Some of the details between the two master's programs are largely the same with some specific differences. So the first is that both the Master of Engineering and the Master of Applied Science require an honors bachelor degree or equivalent in an acceptable discipline. So for systems design engineering, we look for math background. Lots of students come in with engineering backgrounds, but we do, because we're interdisciplinary, have students come in with backgrounds in kinesiology or other related fields. We're not as strict as some engineering fields would be in that regard, but we do still look for that to make sure your background is relevant and that you'd be successful in the program. You need to have at least a B or 75% standing or equivalent, depending on the country of origin, and you must be able to provide transcripts to that effect. Both the MEng and MASC programs require 2 letters of reference with a minimum of 1 academic reference. The other can be either academic or from someone that you've worked with in industry. And if the university requires it, you must prove competency in English as well. So you can look at our English language proficiency website to see if that might be necessary for you. There are a few different stipulations. There are a few countries that are exempt, so it's best to take a look through that page and make sure that you're either exempt or what will be required from you to be able to take a look at it. And we will go into those details a little bit more later. You're required to include a resume or CV, and you're required to include a supplementary information form as well, which tells us a little bit more about why you're interested in the program, what your background is in, and especially for research-based programs too, that's an opportunity to show any research experience you have in your undergraduate program. The key difference between the two master's programs for admission requirement documents is that the MEng program also requires a graduate record examination score, GRE scores, if your education is not from Canada and the US. So please keep that in mind, and it is mandatory. For the PhD program, for the typical entrance, you'd be required to have completed a master's research degree. So again, a thesis-based master's like our Master of Applied Science from a university of recognized standing with a minimum A- or 80% standing with demonstrated research capabilities. You must be able to provide transcripts for that as well. A key difference here with the PhD is that we require 3 letters of reference, and a minimum of 2 must be academic, including 1 from your master's supervisor. So that's a little more extensive, and you'll want to keep that in mind if you're applying for the PhD program. Again, the same requirements in terms of proof of competency in English and a resume, CV, and your supplementary information form as well. So here you'll find a little more details about the English language proficiency requirements. Some of the primary exemptions, they're linked to on this page, so you'll be able to take a look at them later. If you are from a school that only teaches in English, you may be exempt, and there are certain countries of study that are exempt as well. So you want to take a look through those pages. If you are not exempt and you are required to provide proof of English language proficiency, these are the primary tests that we accept and the scores that we are looking for our specific program. So Systems Design Engineering accepts an alternative minimum score based on the nature of engineering programs. And so these are the scores that you'll want to be looking for rather than the maximum scores that you might see at the top of the page. So you can see that TOEFL and IELTS are the most common two that we see. So you'll want to keep in mind application deadlines as well. All of our programs have 3 intake terms a year in the spring, fall, and winter. And the application deadlines are set 6 months before the start of term that you'd like to start. So you want to make sure that you're submitting all required documents for your application within 2 weeks of the application deadline in order to be considered. That includes getting your reference forms in and any other supplemental information, not just your primary application. And please note that incomplete applications will not be considered just because of the volume. We want to make sure that you have all of your details into us, which are required. On the right here, you can see the deadlines. So for the spring term May start, the deadline was October 1st, which has passed for 2024. The next upcoming deadline is for the fall term, which will start in September, and the deadline is February 1st. And then the winter 2025 deadline will be June 1st, 2024. So one of the number one questions that we get that I'm sure is on many of your minds is on finding a supervisor if you're interested in the Master of Applied Science or PhD program. So if you're interested in the Master of Engineering program, because it's course-based, you do not require a supervisor, so you don't need to worry about that. For the Master of Applied Science and PhD programs, I would encourage you to apply before you have a supervisor, unless you already have one nicely set up. You do not need a supervisor in order to apply, but you do need one in order to be accepted for the program. So if you apply before you have a supervisor, there are benefits in terms of the supervisor is able to have better access to your records, to all of your supplemental information, and we're better able to review all of your documents. So you can definitely apply before you have one. Supervisors for research programs provide that guidance that you need to lead you through your program, that feedback and oversight on your thesis. And like we said, they'll have a research group that you'll work with, which is really invaluable to those programs. Supervisors also provide students with a guaranteed minimum funding, which helps support their studies, which we will go into a little bit later as well. So you'll see here, yes, we have the QR code on the right. And I know that finding a supervisor can be daunting. So if you click through there, you'll see a lot of tips and resources for how to find a supervisor, how to contact them, who to contact, and it's all available on our website. So step 3, many students in the Master of Engineering and will choose a specialization. And if you're in the Master of Applied Science or PhD program, you will choose a research area of focus. So this is something you might want to consider as well. The Master of Engineering specializations are not required, but many students choose to pursue them in order to gain more specialized knowledge in a certain area. So each of these specializations typically consists of 3 courses chosen from a short list that we provide of required potential courses, in addition to the 2 core courses that are required for the program. So overall, if you choose to complete a specialization, you'd have sort of a 5-course requirement with a little bit of wiggle room for those 3 courses because we do give you a few options. So the 5 MN specializations we offer are artificial intelligence and machine learning, biomedical systems, human factors, mechatronics and physical systems, vision, image, and signal processing. And if you are in one of our research-based programs, MASC or PhD programs, you will choose your area of research when you begin the program. But please keep in mind that this isn't necessarily locked in. So typically your area of research is meant to be aligned with your supervisor, and you're accepted with an understanding that's sort of the area you'll pursue. However, many students find that their research leads them somewhere they weren't necessarily expecting, or that they're more aligned with one field than the one that they started in. So while you may start with one research area, these do flex for many students over time. So don't be intimidated by choosing right off the bat and feeling like you're locked in and there's no room for you to sort of discover and shift around. That's very common. So the research areas that we offer within the MASC and PhD programs are biomedical engineering, human factors and ergonomics, machine learning and intelligence, mechatronic and physical systems, modeling, simulation and systems theory, optimization and decision making, societal and environmental systems, and vision, image, and signal processing as well. So please note, though, that students can choose to pursue a maximum of 2 of these research field designations. So one can be a methodology field, and one could be considered an application field for their degree. So we still want to make sure that you are having sort of a specific focus to your research, and which is why we limit it to 2. And both these research areas and the specialization for the MEng program will show up on your transcript upon the completion of your degree. And so something that you might be interested in doing, especially if you are interested in the research programs, but also just any of these graduate programs, is knowing what all of our faculty members are up to. They do some pretty incredible research. And again, because we're so interdisciplinary, you'll find that there are a wide array of projects being undertaken at any given time. So if you visit our research and scholarship site, you can see some details on the areas that our faculty members are working in, including biomedical systems, intelligent and automated systems, human factors and interfaces, physical and mechatronic systems, and societal and environmental systems. And we're also very happy to be involved in many interdisciplinary research centers across the campus, which is, I think, something that's very exciting about systems design engineering. Again, because we're interdisciplinary, we have our hands in a lot of pots, and it creates a lot of opportunities for students, as well as really interesting research and work that's being done. So you'll see a few of those listed here that I would definitely encourage you to take the time to click through after and take a look into, particularly if any of those sort of align with your area of interest. So as we mentioned, we know that financial planning is of extreme importance to graduate students, so we want to give you sort of a high-level overview of what that might look like. So the Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs Office has compiled a website and a student budget calculator to help you estimate study and living costs. And we know that cost of living is very high right now, so we definitely encourage you to go through and do this research before you determine what graduate programs you're interested in before accepting an offer, so you can have a realistic idea of what your costs might actually look like. So make sure that you're considering expenses like tuition and books, housing, including a security deposit, and food. Particularly look at housing in Waterloo region to get a good idea of what that might look like if you don't live here right now. Your cell phone or internet communications, transportation, entertainment, because we don't want you to only be living just at school all the time. You deserve to have a little fun, and personal care as well is very important, of course, and food and that sort of thing. So as I mentioned, the MEng program is self-funded. But as research programs, the MASC and PhD programs offer a minimum funding guarantee for full-time students. So for the Master of Applied Science program, that's $18,000 a year for 2 years. And for the PhD program, that's $26,000 a year for 4 years. International students receive the same guaranteed funding, but might find other funding opportunities as well, including awards like the International Master's Award of Excellence or the International Doctoral Student Award. So I'd encourage you to look into those. We do also have teaching assistantships available to all programs, including MEng. They're not guaranteed for any of our students at this time, but we do have many, many teaching assistantships available every term. So I'd encourage you to look into that as well. And the university has put together an extensive awards database that gives you all the information you need to find awards that you may be eligible for, based on your program, the term, your immigration status, and many other factors. So if you scan that QR code, you'll be taken to the EGSO website that will have all that sort of information, a link out to that as well as a webinar on funding. So if that's something you're interested in looking to more extensively, we have a lot of great resources available to you, and I'd encourage you to look through both the EGSO page and the awards database as well to see what might be available for you. And finally, you're ready to apply after all that work. The next step is obviously to apply to your program of choice. So you can see here a screenshot of the Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs website. You can find all of the links to apply and details on everything we've listed here that you'll need, including transcripts, references, your supplemental information form, your resume, proof of English language proficiency, and other details are all available on the Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs website, as well as the information on how to get your application started. And that's all.
So thank you very much for your broad explanation. Of course, this is a lot of information that you're receiving. So please, as Anna was mentioning, please visit our website. I know it's annoying always when we ask questions, it's like, go to the website, but everything, we have been trying to organize all the information over there. If you have any questions, this is a team. They will be more than happy to help you. Over here, you can find the emails. So Sandra is asking, when is the right time to reach out to supervisor before we start the application process?
I would say, unfortunately, I don't have a very specific answer for that, but I will say there's pros and cons to both reaching out early, and sometimes I think potentially it can be a little too early. So I'd say reach out earlier is generally better because supervisors can sometimes be a little hard to get a hold of, and you might want to send a follow-up. And if you don't hear back, you want to obviously ensure that you have time to be able to reach out to other prospective supervisors as well. So I would say earlier is generally better. That being said, sometimes supervisors are looking at sort of the next intake cycle. So for example, right now we have supervisors who started to look at students for spring. And so students who are trying to get a hold of them for fall admissions might not be receiving as fast a response as they typically would if supervisors are focused on sort of the next term. So that's just something that you want to keep in mind. But I think getting the ball rolling earlier is never a bad thing, and it gives you a lot more time to sort of adjust and follow up as needed, which is often something that you'll have to do.
So the sooner the better it could be.
Pretty much.
Here I have a question of maybe something that we didn't mention about accommodation. Of course, thinking about the studies and everything, but where I'm gonna live. Michael is asking, what accommodation does Waterloo offer PhD candidates with families? So number one, I will start trying to answer this question. We designed one page that I just shared with you here, where we explain the region of Waterloo and housing. There is a complete webinar addressing your graduate housing questions. Here we have the different options where you can stay, the Waterloo residences, Waterloo off-campus housing, studying and family housing, and even residences in Waterloo University colleges. So I will advise you to check all that information in detail. I don't know if there is anything else that you would like to add to that. Okay. Is AIF required for MASC? This person is anonymous. I am not sure you know what is AIF.
I believe the AIF is typically for undergraduate programs. It would be sort of the what we consider to be our supplementary information form is the admission information form for undergraduate programs. So we don't have the AIF, but yes, we have the SIF, which is essentially the same, and it has questions within it that you'll be required to complete about any of your potential industry background, research background. If you don't have those, you don't necessarily have to worry, but if you do, that's an opportunity to share them. But also, this is where you definitely want to express your interest in systems design and share why you're particularly interested in the program that you're applying to.
Jasmine is saying, okay, there you go. I got a master degree in polymer engineering, and I'm interested in biomedical engineering, particularly system designing. I'm wondering if I'm eligible for this program.
Yeah, there's no exclusion on having, if you already have a master's program coming into the master's program. I believe you are likely eligible for the PhD as well, potentially. But that being said, certain supervisors might be looking for students with specific background. So that can vary depending on what their needs are and what they're looking for from people at that level. But there's nothing in your background that would necessarily restrict you from entering the program.
Perfect. Maybe I don't see it in the questions here, but one question that we often receive is like students with science and mathematics background, are they not engineering? Are they eligible for the programs in system design engineering, or do they have to take additional courses maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. We get that question a lot, especially because systems design, we do have people who come in without that sort of strict engineering background a lot. And so we're definitely open to it. Students from science or math backgrounds or even other backgrounds. What we primarily look for is sort of a core math background. So you want to make sure that you have sort of a solid foundation in terms of differential equations, calculus, algebra. So that way it's mostly intended to make sure that when you come into the program, you're not being left behind and you're sort of ready for what's required to be able to participate in the courses and your research. But otherwise, we're certainly open to students from other non-engineering backgrounds.
Perfect. Going in that direction, an anonymous attendee says, I am a biotech graduate. Can I apply to a Master of Applied Sciences? I read on the website there are faculty members from different departments.
Sorry, I missed what program they were from.
Biotech. Yeah, biotech.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah, definitely. Again, this is where, especially with the research programs, ideally you'd be looking for a supervisor who is somewhat aligned with the area that you're looking to go into. And if you're interested in a master's program, they don't expect you necessarily to have that exact experience already, but to see how you're relating your undergraduate experience with the problems that you're hoping to solve in your graduate studies. So I think you can make a good case for that, both in your contacts with supervisors directly, as well as in your supplementary information form. But we don't require students to have, an explicit background as long as they have their undergraduate degree as necessitated.
Yes, very clear. Is there any particular capacity on the number of students admitted in the Master of Applied Science?
At the moment, we don't have a maximum capacity for that program that we have to implement. The reason being that supervisors have to choose to take on students, and so they individually will tend to have their own capacities in terms of funding that they're able to offer, room that they have on their teams. So this can vary quite significantly from term to term depending on what students they have that are graduating, any new funding they have available. So this number can change quite significantly and is affected by the supervisors more so than the program itself.
Yeah, I see sometimes we're looking for like, how many spots do you have?
Yeah, exactly. And that's unfortunately just not how it works.
Yes, that applies with everybody as well in all the departments. When will the master, an anonymous attendee is asking, when will the Master in Biomedical Science commence or get launched?
So we're hoping to be able to start taking external students. It would likely be in 2025. That being said, what we anticipate happening is that we will be able to transfer students from within systems design who are working in the field of biomedical engineering, who are interested into the biomedical engineering program. So if you're interested in biomedical engineering and getting that specific degree, I would encourage you to apply for the systems design program if you're interested for this upcoming year. And students who join who are in the beginning stages of their program, as you would be eligible to be transferred into the biomedical program once it's launched.
Perfect. I think it's going to be very popular.
Oh yeah, I think so.
I think it's super popular. Just checking anywhere here in the questions, something like general, how flexible it is, the selection of the courses. If there is something that they need to take and they can change the courses after, how does it work?
So for the Master of Engineering program, we have 2 required courses. So the one is Side 600, which is essentially sort of a foundations of systems design course that gives you take it in fall term, and that gives you sort of the groundwork for systems design engineering on a graduate level. And then the spring term, we have a project-based course, which is called Side 660, and that's your second required course. If you're taking a specialization, you'll take a specific version of that course. So Side 660A, something along those lines. And that just shows that you're focusing on that area of your specialization within the project that you're doing. So that's a very cool one required course because it gives you an opportunity to work with a team and develop a project, which is an excellent experience. And then for the Master of Applied Science and PhD, at the moment, we don't have required core courses. That being said, your supervisor does have to approve your courses. So generally, they'll work with you to make sure that the courses you're taking are beneficial to your area of research. There are required restrictions in terms of they have to be from within engineering or a number of other specific faculties, science, math, health, I believe, are 3 of them. I'm not sure if I'm forgetting any others, but so there are some restrictions, but they'll be generally chosen in conjunction with your supervisor.
Okay. Following that line as well, just reading between the lines in the questions, how can they find a supervisor? Who are the system designers?
Yeah. Absolutely. So typically what we advise, if you go through the links that we provided earlier, and probably in the chat, I imagine you can find them as well. There are pages that list all of the systems design engineering faculty members, and we've tried to recently add also a little sort of brackets next to their name to give a little high level overview of what their field of research is in. So what we would recommend is to sort of go through that list of faculty members, see who's aligning with your area that you're interested in. You can see here. So for example, Lisa Altman Hall says transportation systems next to her title. And then once you click through to her actual profile, you'd be able to generally, I believe it lists at the bottom if they're accepting graduate students as well. Yeah, so you can see that at the bottom. So it's a little painstaking, but that's definitely the best way to go through and make sure that you're reaching out to supervisors who are aligned with the area that you're interested in researching. And what I recommend is that when you reach out, you don't send them a generic email. Those will most likely get ignored because a lot of these faculty members receive significant numbers of emails from potential students. And so I would make sure that you're able to speak to the research that they're doing and why it's a good fit for the problem that you're trying to solve, and be able to be specific about what you're looking to research as well. Again, this is flexible once you're in the program if you end up going in a different direction, but in order to make that connection, you need to be able to talk about what you're interested in researching and how it's aligned with the work that they're doing, and that's, I think, the best way. So yeah, you can see here Maria's brought up advice for contacting a supervisor. Definitely check out this page. There are webinars and tips, and those are definitely what we recommend reading through and following, because definitely it can be a bit of a process reaching out and making those connections.
Kind of the research starts right away in the application.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Let me just see. We just have a couple of minutes left. So, is the entry I'm sorry, let me ask. Javad is asking, citation and number of papers are important to catch PhD?
If you're applying to the PhD program, they're looking for proof that you have done research. So I think it can vary depending on, again, the supervisor. This is something where we don't have necessarily an explicit, exact black and white answer for you. You do need to show that you have done research, either at the master's level or whatever it may be. Other publications can certainly be beneficial. Some supervisors will be looking for that more so. Others will be looking more at the area that you're working in and sort of the information you've provided them. So it doesn't hurt, but we are looking for general research background. So the number can vary depending.
Yeah, we have to think about the professors, like what is the profile that they are looking. They're gonna run research, so of course it's better if you have that background.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael is asking, if research is externally funded, does this impact our intellectual property rights over our inventions?
I believe I know the answer to this, but Sarah, please jump in if I'm saying the wrong thing. That would, I think, depend on the other bodies of work that are involved in the process. So any funding you receive through the university and anything you create within your time at the university, you would own the intellectual property rights over. But if you were working in conjunction with another body that didn't have the same what's the word? Policy, that's the word, then that would potentially be the case. But that would be dependent on them versus the University of Waterloo, I believe.
Yeah, if I could add to that, Maria.
Yeah.
I think when a student is working with a faculty member, sometimes there are industry partners that are involved, and those industry partners are funding research through that faculty member. And as part of the agreement for that funding, students may be limited in terms of what they can retain in terms of IP, as in the products, ideas, technology generated is owned by the company that's funding the research. And that sort of thing needs to be fully disclosed to the student at the commencement of the research. And most faculty members are quite good about that, are very transparent about where the money is coming from, what the project is for, how the project is going to work. Also, sometimes students come in with company sponsorship and might be working on a project specific to a company. And in those cases as well, the student might be bound by non-disclosure agreements, IP policies, and that sort of thing through their company. So as Anna mentioned, if there is a third party involved that has some kind of NDA or different IP policy, that needs to be thoroughly explored and discussed with the supervisor and the student prior to any work being done to ensure that the student fully understands what their IP rights are going to be at the end of the project.
So Eniola is asking, if a preferred supervisor doesn't accept a particular candidate, will the application package be reviewed by other potential supervisors?
So the answer is that it can be. This is why we recommend reaching out to them directly. That way you know that you've sort of spoken with the supervisor and that you have a number of potential supervisors that you've actually made that connection with. So certainly it's not restricted if you list a supervisor on your application, and that doesn't restrict you from being accepted by other supervisors. But we'd recommend reaching out and making that connection directly as well, because it gives you a better shot of having one or multiple supervisors interested in your application.
Perfect. I think for now we're good. You see, Sarah and Chanel were super fast answering all the questions as well in the chat. So I think we can end up here. I just would like to finish sharing the main pages that we have been mentioning every time here in the webinar. Just all the links are there again in the chat. And if you're seeing the recording of this session anyways, you can find them in the description of the video. So number one, please visit the graduate studies page, graduate students. Over here, you're going to find the programs, all the advice to find research and supervisors, all the explanation about funding, scholarships, and awards, including, for example, the tuition and the budget calculator that Anna mentioned. If you are an international student, this section, for sure you are interested in this section. Here, for example, you can find the links for grade equivalences, the international grade equivalences, and what are the English admission requirements and options if you are not in that level yet. Also the information about what are the courses in general, graduate student services, how is the life here in Waterloo, athletics, recreation, the clubs, housing, the campus, even food and services. If you are interested, also we run constantly more events and info sessions, and you can always request more information. So this is one of the main sources of information, and as well, of course, the system design engineering page. Over here, you can find a description of each one of the programs. You can find the student experience, the explanation how to apply. So just please visit those websites as well. Here, and what is called the Graduate Studies Academic Calendar, you can always find all the description and admission requirements for all the programs that we just talked about today. So thank you so much to all of you, Anna, Sarah, Chanel, for your time. And thanks again to all the attendees, the participants, for your interest in system design engineering.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Maria.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Hope to see you soon at the University of Waterloo. Bye-bye.